Hello, it's Imogen here again with Shay to continue our conversations on many and various things to do with trauma, stress, neuroscience, body intelligence, and more. And today we're going to talk about the art and science of savoring. How do we practice savoring? In our last video, we talked about glimmers, which are these kind of tiny moments of goodness or ease and well-being. But this week, savoring is when we linger and immerse ourselves. So we'll go into all of that. So Shay, welcome.
Thank you.
Again. And let's just go right into it. What is savoring? What is it?
That is taking a few moments to appreciate a positive environment, feeling, or experience. About 20 seconds is all you really need to focus your attention on taking in everything about that scenario so that you can make a memory of it and call it up later as a resource. Actually, those are differing things, but that's part of my process.
Mm-hmm. So that was really interesting. I'd forgotten. I think you have mentioned it a long while ago. The idea of the 20 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
but this idea that yes, it's a lot more than a glimmer, which might not even be a second long. It
Mm-hmm.
might be, a moment of just. But this is, you know, it's not a long time that's needed to
No.
savor something, but you're very present and you're
Mm-hmm.
very conscious
Mm-hmm.
of it.
And curious, taking in what is
Mhm.
happening. What are these sounds? What are these sensations?
So I think we kind of, if people are like me, the idea of savoring, because we know the word from kind of eating and savoring your food, and we know that means to linger and enjoy and really appreciate the taste. That is kind of taking that into um, any and every aspect of our life as these positive experiences appear,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And they can often start as a glimmer. Like you might suddenly feel beauty when you see the light coming through some beautiful yellow leaves in the late afternoon in the fall. And you'll feel that. And that could spark you to say, oh, I would like to savor this. And then spend
Mm,
that time turning that glimmer into a resource that you can call up again.
mhm. Um, I'm thinking in my life, there are times before I even knew this concept where the kind of savoring spontaneously happened, but they're
Mm-hmm.
really few and far between. And we can be a lot more conscious about it and intentional. We were talking before we came on air about how um, we can remember the more unpleasant, stressful, traumatic, horrible events in our life, um, unfortunately, quite easily. And in a way, the savoring, would you say it's kind of a balancing or it's a.
It certainly can
Um,
counterbalance that.
mhm,
It's kind of an antidote. Our natural
antidote?
inclination as mammals is to look for the danger and the bad things so that we can protect ourselves from them. That makes a lot of sense. Um, and if we don't also focus on the positive things, then our nervous system becomes further and further oriented toward threat detection and protection rather than safety and connection, because we can't
Mhm,
be seeking uh, threat detection. We can't be focused on threat detection and be open and connected at the same time. It's impossible.
which is what's required for these savoring moments
Mm-hmm.
because you're open to fully experience the experience. And you mentioned somewhere that it's a full sensory experience. So you mentioned like you see the glimmer of light through the trees, which initially is a visual I guess, experience of, beauty. But you'd expand that, right, to include.
Yeah, feel what it feels like to have your feet on the ground, and the breeze on your skin, and the sunlight on your forehead, or any kind of sensory input at all. And also the internal sense is really important in this too.
Right.
A lot of times when we have a glimmer and we slow down and savor it, we feel a sense of awe as well, which is, to me, a sense of awe is really like an expanded sense of connection.
Yeah, I've just read a fantastic book about awe, and that really is what it is. It's connecting with the kind of mystery of everything, and the connection with other people, and I'm thinking about, actually, it just made this connection for me. He kind of, in this book, Dacher Keltner is the author of this book. He distinguished various different types of awe that people, like experience in nature. A lot of people will think about that, like you're at the Grand Canyon or something, or even, something a little less dramatic. But having connecting experiences with other people and our world was, and often both, like if you're experiencing being at the Grand Canyon with other people, it may have an even greater impact, which is not to say there can't be some chosen solitary moments that can be very, very powerful too. So
yeah, I think probably everybody can recall a time that they experienced group awe, because it does have such an impact on our nervous system, because we're made for this. That's why it feels so good. We need more. It's for our health and well-being.
That was basically the message of his book, and he called that that group experience of awe, he called that collective effervescence, which I think is a rather nice term. So yeah,
it is, yeah.
So you gave us the example of how, like, the glimmer of the light through the leaves could be turned into a savoring experience. Do you have can you give an example of something that happened for you, that shows how you savored something, and very intentional about kind of being present, and then you would have it as a memory too? So.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind that most easily is one where I was actually teaching somebody else about savoring.
So you had a little collective connection piece going on, as well as the thing.
Yeah, we were standing on the port rail of Kalmar Nickel, and the sun was not quite up. And
I'm just going to interrupt you. Not everyone might not know what Kalmar Nickel is, but it is a tall sailing ship. I might not be using tall ship, but people might not even know that means sailing.
300 tons of wood and canvas. A 17th century armed merchant vessel. It's
like
pretty
awe-inspiring. In and of itself.
Yeah, and when you're living aboard, and you get up and you have your coffee on the rail, and there's dew on the rail, and the river is just smooth as glass, and there's a little mist lifting, and there's that violet color, and the other ships are just there at anchor, and most of the people are sleeping, and you just have this very special feeling. And then there's a shipmate there next to you enjoying it with his cup of coffee too. And afterward, I talked to him about it. I stood there and just took it in. And then I said, 20 seconds, And that made a difference to him. And I know he's, carried that on. I haven't seen him in years, but I know he's carried that on with him, because that made an impression on his nervous system that well.
So coincidentally, I just listened to a couple of episodes of the Hidden Brain podcast, about savoring. No, we're going to talk about it, but the creating a memory part kind of was a kind of considered as kind of a secondary thing, not an
Mhm.
unimportant thing. But 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 you seem to really include that from the get-go
Mhm.
as an important piece. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah,
And it seems like, yeah.
it turns out I actually understood this instinctively or neurophysiologically as a kid. I was lucky enough to spend a good portion of my 14th summer living alone in a small cottage on the beach in New Hampshire. And I knew it was really special and I knew it wouldn't last. And so one day I was standing on the beach and it was just the perfect day with the puffy clouds, and I'd been sailing and the tide was down and I could smell the salt air and the birds were wheeling in the sky. It was just magnificent. And I just stood there and kind of dug my toes into those cold ribs of sand after the water goes out and just took it all in and said, I'm making a memory of this. And it turned out that that was really important to me. In fact, I wanted to mention that that in shamanic journeying many years later, I learned about having a power place. And I went, oh, that's what that was for me. That was a place that I could go back to neurophysiologically, not just in my mind, but my body could feel those sensations a little bit, not like exactly being there, but have that recapture that feeling. And there were times the following year was, when I was abducted and kept in a dark basement and tortured. So having a resource like that in my mind to go back to that beach was really, really important. And I feel that everybody needs to know how to use this resource, because you never know when you're going to need, when things are so bad that this is what you really need. Or just, to have in your bag of tricks to help you have a better day.
Yes. So just as you know, that I'm just so very sorry you had such a terrible, terrible, terrible experience, and I'm glad you had this other moment. And as you said, this doesn't have to be used for extreme circumstances. This can be just in your daily lives to make them a little bit better. One, you're having more present moments, experiences, which are enriching, but you can also be making memories that you can draw on. And you talk about this, having these as resources for future times that maybe, are a little tougher. So.
And even when we're not having tough times, those are still resources in us.
Yeah.
Experiences like that and memories like that have a solidifying effect on the sense of self and the life force.
Yes, I can really see that. And I agree that we don't have to save the savored times for the tough times. You can save them on a good day and make it even better, right?
Sure. And
And
you can
I'm
even
thinking
take a
of,
picture of it and have it on your wall and go, oh yeah, that's that. I have a picture from that day. So and when I pull it up, all I have to do is see that picture and my day is better, whatever's
I'm
going on.
thinking this can often happen naturally with old friends when you have shared memories,
Mhm.
and then you kind of in this reminiscing um uh in
Yeah, bring back
time,
that collective
and
effervescence.
so you kind of have the shared savoring of the experience originally, and then the shared savoring of the savoring. Yeah.
It's a pretty good deal,
So
isn't it?
it is, and they're usually really fun when you kind of get into that, all that kind of fun
Mhm.
memories together. Yeah. um So, how would you recommend people go about being a little more intentional about savoring the moments?
Probably very much like we teach in our class. Uh,
Mhm.
focus attention on it as you can and know that most of the time you won't make it, and
Mhm.
that each time that you do, you're building your resources, building neural connections that will begin to fire together and wire together, um, and become that resource.
I'm thinking, you mentioned earlier about the, kind of the full sensory and noting all of that about an experience, that we could be intentional, because it might not come naturally. You might be looking at a lovely flower and be very focused on the flower.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be a much fuller experience if you include how you're feeling looking at the flower, the way you said feet on the floor, your sense of yourself, the feeling of the breeze, or the sound of the hum of insects or birds, or
The look
all
on
of
your
that.
friend's face when they smell the flower.
Yes. So all of that. So could that be just like I'm thinking that could just be useful. Oh, what else do I sense while I'm looking? I think we're very visual oriented, that often it might be something visual, but of course music can be a very inspiring and savoring experience. I mean, I think anything can be, but remembering there's others. So if you're listening to music, you can remember, where am I? What's around me as we're listening to this? Who's with me? Da, 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 all of those things. So yeah. Anything else?
I just wanted to share too the idea I came up with a few years ago of savoring walks, where I intentionally go into the forest, focused on savoring whatever I encounter with all my senses as much as I can, knowing that most of the time I'm not.
Yeah.
And just noticing what, as Mary Oliver calls, what the soft animal of your body loves. That's really, really good for the nervous system. What does my body love?
I love that idea. So it's just setting kind of like the intention. I'm going to savor whatever I remember to savor during this walk today. And our minds wander and things happen and we go all over it, but you'll have much more likely to have more moments of savoring, more 20 seconds of savoring.
And if you
as
do that
go.
regularly, like a few times a week or every day or whatever, 10 minutes a day, that will build up, and your capacity for noticing glimmers and enjoying the savoring will increase. What we focus on grows, and focused attention is our superpower.
So the glimmers are super important and are really helpful in and of themselves. And we may be able to use some of those glimmers to savor and get even more goodness and well-being for ourselves. And what we get for ourselves in that way is not just for ourselves, because we are social
Animals.
creatures. Yes. And
Beings.
our my affect affects your affect affects, so
Yeah.
so go forth and savor.
Ooh, I like that. I want a t-shirt that says that.
Okay, I think that's it for savoring. So if you have any questions or comments about it, or a little savoring story of your own to share, we'd love to hear that. And we'll be back soon for another conversation. Thanks, Shay.